some sort of reactivity over here, and I'd put an iron one. We could put a carbon one here. We've had a lot of questions in the break here about carbon. The important thing about carbon is that if you've got carbon in the rocks, the fluid reacts and produces methane. And methane has a very high fluid pressure, vapor pressure. So if you want to have methane, if you've got it in a lab, you've got to get a cylinder and chain it to the wall. I've seen a cylinder escape. Someone has opened the valve and the thing destroyed an entire laboratory. Just looked as if an atom bomb had gone through it. So got a very high vapor pressure. So if you can put methane into the fluid, it will boil like the Coke can. If you have methane in the Coke instead of just CO2, when you lifted that top, you can all, I mean, when you open the can, you can feel the CO2 gas in your nose. You'd certainly feel it if there was methane in there. So that's good. It raises the vapor pressure. It makes the fluid break the rock more easily. Methane is very reduced. It's a reduced compound. So if it boils off, it oxidizes the fluid. And if we remember, those solubility things went like that. If we oxidize it, we deposit all the gold. And then the methane itself can precipitate carbon somewhere else. So it can form in these graphitic shear zones or something like that. Then the gold will be nearby. So methane is a very, very important component. But I've put iron in here instead, just to illustrate this. I can't do it. This is just my diagram that I've made up. And so what I've got is these are most reactive rocks. These are the most competent rocks. I've put the ratios for some of these along here. And what we can see is there's banded iron formation, a great host rock. Granophyric dolerite, fantastic host rock. Dolerite, tholeiitic basalt, then tonalite. The granite's the best is diorite, actually would fit here somewhere like that. And then all these other rocks are not so good. So when you're looking at the stratigraphy, if you see tholeiitic basalts, banded iron formation, dolerites, and so on, diorites. Now, if I look at Egypt, for example, you've got a lot of oceanic basalts, you've got a lot of tholeiitic basalts, you've got banded iron formation. I'm not so sure about dolerites, and you've certainly got lots of diorites. You've got subvolcanic intrusions. In the legends of all the maps I've seen, diorite appears. So you've got a group of rocks that are the right, and then again you've got sedimentary rocks which might have the carbon in them. So the other rock that can produce methane, lots of methane, are ultramafic rocks. If you serpentinize, if you've got olivine still in the ultramafic rock, and you put a hydrothermal fluid through it, and you form serpentine, you produce an awful lot of methane. So that's another thing we've got these ophiolite belts and so on, you might expect to be a lot of methane along those zones if the fluid is interacting with if the fluid's interacting with olivine. For example, in Western Australia we had a lot of high-grade metamorphic rocks where the original olivine had gone to serpentine. They've been metamorphosed back to olivine talc rocks. And the drilling company was drilling these for nickel, and the rigs caught fire. And the reason was that the fluid being forced down the drill was serpentinizing the olivines, crushing the olivine and serpentinizing it, and all this methane was coming up the drill. And two of these rigs caught fire. Couldn't understand it. It was all the methane being generated out of these ultramafic rocks. So that's another thing that could be important. Certainly in Egypt, we've got a lot of them. So we start looking at our hydrothermal system again, just briefly. perspective, I'm just going through trying to make a mineral system model that we can use in exploration. So we've got a simplistic thing, source rock, fluid focusing, host rock. Here's the Abitibi belts, another example where we can see, so we've got these big faults, they call them breaks here. We can see the gold deposits are lying around them through here. One of the things we'll notice later on is direction. You can see that these deposits are lying near a granite, they're all lying in that direction. These are lying near a granite, they're all in that direction. All the ones at Baldur are lying in that direction. So some of the direction, that direction and that direction, see here, the deposits lying there, deposits lying there. Even here we see the deposits lying in that same direction. So the orientation of the shear zone can be very important. It's quite interesting if you're driving along the road here, if you're driving along, come down from Timmins across here somewhere, drive along the road, and there's nothing much to see, and you're driving along, you just turn around to the right about 15 degrees, and you just look down the road and there are head frames all the way down. So you're driving along these big breaks, so just a small angular difference will produce a whole series of deposits. I'll come back to this. This is one of the most important things. Even there you notice that there's something there. Huh? These are all, they're all oblique slips. So they probably started off, they control the basin. They're probably originally basin edge faults, and then they became thrust faults, and then they became strike slip faults. So they've had a history. Now they're strike slip faults with some reverse movement on them. Huh? Mostly with reverse movement. So these are sort of jogs, like jogs in the fault. Yeah. And we can see that very clearly. The next one, this is one of Rich Goldfarb's slides. The big fault is down through there. You can see this is in Alaska. Down through there, you can see the fault coming down. It jogs. It bends around. This is 15 degrees. It doesn't want to be a big jog, but 15 degrees is the right angle. Then it comes back straight. So it turns around again in this little gold deposit. So the two biggest deposits in Alaska are sitting on either side of the river or the fjord across here. You can see that bend is very important. Intersection of two structures here. Not much happening. Bend, big deposit, down, and another deposit down here. So there's the big fault. There's the second order fault. There's the jog. This is a sort of classic pattern that we see. Again, I pointed this out, the importance of lithospheric boundaries. So we go back to the Abitibi. These are essentially boundaries between different terrains. So these things probably are lithospheric scale fault. They're long enough. You can see they're hundreds of kilometres long. They're almost certainly going down to the mantle. We see a lot of lamprifiers along these belts. Lamprifiers come from the mantle, lithosphere. So these are probably lithosphere tapping faults. This one in here, almost all the lamprifiers known from Western Australia occur in this belt, with a few over here. There are none over here. So this again is a massive lithospheric scale fault. It's tapping the mantle, that fault there, long-lived fault, and the gold deposits are sitting here, and we're getting a lot of these very deeply sourced lithospheric mantle rocks along the terrain. So these are important first order things. Another thing that's important is that the orientation of the rocks. Now mostly when we get deformation,